you for being here at our annual meeting for Grace United Church. We welcome not only those of you that are here, but also our friends who are following along on Zoom, now that we've got that going. And thank you to Adam, who has been looking after the technology while I lead the meeting. The format of the annual meeting has changed over the last few years. 2 years ago, to be safe and inclusive with the pandemic in full swing, we met by Zoom. New technology for many of us. Last year, we were taking baby steps forward. We were in our with our church friends. We were maybe socially distanced and masked up, but we were together in the CE Hall. We had a combined church service and meeting, but we were not able to eat together. This year, as well as meeting in person here, we're also connected by Zoom to those that are following along at home. We're together for the service and for the annual meeting. This year, we are also pleased to be able to offer the pizza lunch again. So thank you to the Stewardship Committee for organizing the pizza. I had originally thought that we would complete our meeting before the pizza, but it was brought to my attention that some folks have medical conditions they need to eat at 12. So we will move the meeting along as best we can. We may have to have a short break when the pizza comes so folks can get their food, and we may have to finish up the meeting while we eat. But we're going to play this by ear, and we'll see how well we can move along here. For anybody who doesn't know, my name is Pat Blackmore, and I have served as the board chair for the last few years. Taking the minutes is Larry Howes, the congregational board secretary, and welcome to everybody. I call this meeting to order. This year, we were having people sign up at the door, so we should have an accurate record of attendance, and we will also be able to record the attendance of the people on Zoom. So that part is done. I'm sure many of you have viewed the annual report online or have printed off the annual report and the agenda for the meeting. There's also a few copies to share at each table if there's something that you want to look at. The agenda is on the first page if you want to follow along. If you are following the agenda, you'll see that we do not have to do the lighting of the candle or the worship section of the meeting, as those items have already been done. So now we're on to the third agenda item. In 2022, we were saddened by the passing of several members of the congregation, and that's listed on page 4. I will read the in memoriam names, followed by a time of silence. In memoriam, Marjorie Weidendorf, Jack Spear, Keith Daly, Arnold Corlett, Mary Hall, Leon Castor, Angela Ray, Colleen Price. May their memory be a blessing. Our congregational board has adopted some recommendations of how to conduct themselves during a meeting. These holy manners are recommended by the United Church. I think you would agree that our board meetings and our annual meetings have been cordial and respectful, but it is a good thing to be able to verbalize our standards for conducting ourselves. The holy manners are included on page 4, and you can read them on your own if you have not already. We are here today because we care about our church. It's an important part of our lives. The annual meeting is an opportunity to celebrate the good things that happen at Grace United, but we also recognize the need for it to be official. So we have a number of motions to pass in order to make the meeting an official one. Again, rather than asking volunteers for movers and seconders from the audience, which can take a fair bit of time, I've called on members of the board to help with some of these procedural motions. Thank you, board members. An official meeting needs a chair and a secretary. Adam Olivero will make the motion to name Pat Blackmore as chair and Larry Howes as secretary. It will be seconded by Pat Wilkin. Any discussion? And if you wish to speak, raise your hand. Okay. And so we will vote by raising your hand. All in favor? Against? Abstaining? Okay, that motion passes. Kathy McCartney will make the motion to grant voting privileges for this meeting to adherents for all matters, seconded by Jen Olivero. Any discussion? Put your hand up if you have a question or something to say. We'll vote then. All in favor? Against? Abstaining? Okay, that motion passes. The agenda for the meeting is listed on page 1 of the 2022 annual report. As already mentioned, the candle lighting in the worship section has been done. Don Blanchard will make a motion to accept the agenda as printed, seconded by Doris Colby. Any discussion? All in favor? Against? Abstaining? The minutes of the annual meeting for 2021 are printed on pages 2 and 3 of the report. Please take a look. Adam Olivero will make a motion to adopt the minutes as printed, seconded by Pat Wilkin. Any discussion about the contents of that? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor? Against? Abstaining? That one passes. The printed reports of the action teams and committees begin on page 13. I'm asking the authors of those reports in particular to take a good look, although I'm sure they've already reviewed them. Are there any amendments needed? Then Jen Olivero will make a motion that the printed reports of the action teams be received for information, seconded by Don Blanchard. Any other discussion of those minutes from a year ago? All in favor? Against? Abstaining? Okay. On page 3 is the nomination report for the official board. We are grateful and appreciative of these caring and thoughtful folks who have made the who make the decisions that need to be made to help keep Grace to be the church that it is. Many of these board members have been serving for a number of years, and they're very dedicated. Thank you, board members. Page 5 has the committee membership for 2023. Are there any names to be added or deleted from what is printed? Jerry? Okay. Anything else? When you look at that, what an active group of committed church members we have. When you read the pages of reports about committee activities, you see how active they've been even during the pandemic. Thank you to those who have volunteered to serve on committees. And again, many of these folks have been serving in their roles for a number of years. By the way, all of our committees would welcome new members. Being on a committee is not an onerous task, and it's a great way to get to know what goes on at Grace and get to know some of the great folks who make up our Grace community. It is also allows a direct opportunity to make your voice heard when input is needed. Speak to a committee member or the chair if you might be interested in joining one of those groups either now or in the coming months. Paul Cruikshank, who's on Zoom, will make the motion to accept the appointment of officers and committee members, seconded by Bob Blackmore. Any discussion? All in favor? Against? Abstaining? We'll now move on to the Constitution. The Constitution has been online, and printed copies were also available for the last few weeks, so I can assume you have reviewed it if you have an interest in this. And we've got it up here right now. I know it's 9 or 10 pages. And what happened here was our Constitution was very out of date. And before the pandemic, the Grace United Church Board decided some changes certainly needed to be made. Now, some of the changes were necessary to reflect our current practices, such as we had to change presbytery delegates, which don't exist now, to regional representatives. We had to delete references to the Bruce Presbytery. We had to update our mission statement, and we had to make some changes to reflect what is in the current United Church of Canada manual. We also needed to update some elements of board membership in terms of office to reflect our actual practice. So the first few pages, a lot of cleaning up of language and updating. The last part of the Constitution had to do with the action teams or committees and their responsibilities. Some of these sections needed little or no change, but there were some committees where their responsibilities had changed. The board had asked these committees to review their responsibilities, update them, and report back to the board. Then the pandemic showed up, and we didn't get that last section finished. So now all the committees have reviewed their sections. They've all reported back to the board. And the board, looking at the total Constitution, passed all the sections last June. So in summary, this document has already been extensively reviewed by both the board and various committees. And the last step is that it needs to be passed by the congregation. Jerry Asling will make the motion to adopt the updated Constitution, and that's seconded by Doris Colby. Any discussion? Yes.
In paragraph 1.3.6, there's some confusing wording, and I'm thinking it might be a typo, but
1 point.
1.3.6.
When the meeting must be held, the meeting must be held within 15 days of receiving the request. Oh, yeah. It looks like the wording is repeated, except when the meeting is called for pastoral relations matters. So that one, I think that's just wording. It's,
I just wanted to
yeah.
mention it because it's really confusing.
Yeah, they've repeated themselves. I think McCall did that one. I'm just kidding. Don't tell anybody. Anything else? Yes.
Constitutions can put people to sleep, but there are some of us that really read things closely. I would like to suggest a few editorial changes that bring the Constitution, parts of the Constitution that do not have correct English grammar in them, up to date and speed. And I'll give you some examples. with good English grammar?
Yes.
Okay. So if you would go to the section on the congregational board, and okay, 2:4, okay, 2:4. Okay, the responsibilities of the congregational board shall be to, okay? Hang on to that line, because I think you should use it for all of the teams. Then, because I will then show you where you come to the affirming team, which I'm a member of, and I didn't read this beforehand. When the committee was working on this, I didn't pay attention. Listen to this. The responsibilities of the affirming team shall include reports, shall include celebrate, doesn't read well. If you use the same line that you have for the congregational board, the responsibilities of the affirming team shall be to report to the church council, celebrate, look at the other areas, work with local mental health teams, and so on. You know, it's just a simple thing. Okay, all the other committees, if you make one change, the responsibility of this committee, this team, shall be to, consistent with the congregational board, then everything reads beautifully. Okay? Later on in the report, there is one more reference still to presbytery and conference, and it can be picked up and I think changed to regional council.
Oh, okay, where we've used presbytery.
That's near the end.
Section 310.3.
So I think what you're suggesting is not changing the intent. It's cleaning up some of the little bit of sloppy wording.
Clean it up a wee bit, that's all.
Okay.
I have to say, this has evolved. I looked at it, it's in 1996, a reference to 1996. That was the second year that I was here. And would you believe, at that time, the church board, when we met, we would fill the friendship room. 20, 25, could be 30 people were sitting on the board. And I came from a church that was running with a board of 15. And I'm saying, this doesn't work, it's unwieldy. So over the years, beautiful constitution. Thanks for the hard work on it.
Thank you very much, Doug. And so I think what we're saying here is the intent of the Constitution is fine, but we do need to clean up bits and pieces of the wording. So perhaps we can still, as a congregation, pass this Constitution with the idea that we will go back and do those little tidy-ups in terms of some of the grammar and the phrasing, so we can say this is done. Is there any other discussion? Well, perhaps if there's no more discussion, we'll take a vote on it. So with the idea that we'll adopt the Constitution and go back and clean up a little bit of that language. All in favor? Objecting? Abstaining? Okay, so we've got that passed, and we'll just get that language cleaned up. I'll call on George Blanchard to review the financial report for 2022 and the budget for 2023. They're in your report beginning on page 6.
Thank you, Pat. Hey, good morning, everybody. Okay, just a couple of things that I wanted to do before I get into the financial report. Number one, I have a couple of kudos that I want to give out. First one goes to Laurel for all her hard work in looking after the financial records of the church, processing reports and getting the information out to the board so that we can work with that. So, Laurel. The second one is that back in the fall, if you remember, I sent out an email that said that our financial position was not looking too good. And also it was mentioned a few times during service that we had a big deficit going, a shortfall in revenue, as it were. You came through in the end. It was a tremendous job. The deficit, I figured there would be one there, but the deficit was even smaller than what I had anticipated. So a big round of applause for that. For 2022, when we started out the year, it looked like there was a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. But the last guy out of the tunnel, somewhere along the line, turned the light off. And as you recall, services were restricted, use of the building was restricted, and things like that. So that caused a cash flow issue. But we did get through that. So as far as the year goes, the numbers there, a $5,800 deficit. We can live with that for a few years during the pandemic with the support of the government of the day. They provided financing to help us get through the pandemic, and we actually showed some surpluses in there. So a little one in a partial year is not bad. Moving on to 2023, things are certainly looking up. That there's more use of the building. Our services, the only reason our services are getting disrupted now is Mother Nature, and Mother Nature could take a hiatus and go somewhere else for a while. A lot of the budget was basically the same as the prior year because some things really don't change a lot. In the end, it worked out that it's all things being equal, that it should balance. It should be a zero. And that's what we're going for. There are things that are being planned throughout the year, some fundraising ideas, things like that, which will help. The expenses are going to be well controlled again. We don't spend the money foolishly. We look for ways to do things, get it done, make the building look nice, make it functional, and do that. Again, in the local fund, we have money there that comes from various sources. The largest one is your contributions. Part of your contributions can be done by PAR. And I should have written them down this morning when I thought of them because I had a whole bunch of little phrases I could throw out about PAR and do that, but I didn't. So, but one of the big things is its convenience. And for me, it meant that I'd come here, I forgot to get a check, or I forgot to drive across town and go to the bank and get some money, and things like that. And then we'd be away on weekends and whatnot. So we signed up for PAR, and it's worked great. It's a monthly cash flow for the church because as good corporate citizens that we are, we pay most of our bills monthly. There's the odd thing we get that we have to pay once a year. So if we have that steady income stream every month, it just makes it easier so that my blood pressure doesn't go up, my heart rate doesn't increase, okay, what are we going to do now? Things like that. There's a slight charge to the church for using PAR. It's 50 cents a person. However, when we look at what we pay the bank for services for processing checks and cash and coin and whatever, it's a small cost to pay. And somebody does all the work. They process it. Laurel gets the report in. She just goes down the report. Blanchard, there's your contribution. Somebody else, and do it that way. And it just makes it so much easier. So as far as 2023 goes, we keep our fingers crossed that things are going to be good. We had 2 years of the COVID hangover. That party's over with. Let's get on to some new celebrations and some good times. I know people are anxious to get out, and it shows even here today that people want to get out and socialize and be part of things. And this is a big way to do it. The other thing is that the money that we raise goes for a lot of worthy causes, and all the ones that are local mission and service. The name may be misleading because it'll say for a different county or whatever. However, those people also have offices in the area. People support people that can be called on, and we help support those causes. So it may not impact us personally, but it may impact somebody that you know, and it's a worthy cause to support. So we'll keep providing information on that throughout the year, so you'll know where the money's going for the local mission and service. There's also the mission and service for the church. There's a lot of things out there in the world that need support, and we'll continue to support those too. On the other side of things, we have to support the bricks, the mortar, the people that work in the church, that help as leaders, that do the things that need to be done so that we're fulfilling our mission. Okay? Any questions?
Okay. George will make a motion to accept the 2022 financial report is printed, seconded by Pat Hayes. And if there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All in favor? Against? Abstaining? George Blanchard will also make the motion to adopt the 2023 budget, seconded by Catherine Danko. Any discussion? All in favor? Against? Abstaining? Thanks, George. We are blessed to have George stepping into the role of treasurer of our church, and we are grateful to have him in this role. Since the pandemic, it has hardly been business as usual when it comes to finances. There have been changes needed to banking routines, applications for government grants, etc. We're grateful that George has taken on all the extra work to keep us on the right path financially. We also need to thank you, the congregation, for stepping forward with your continued donations to keep our church viable. So critical at a time when we've had to cancel many of our traditional fundraising opportunities in the last year. On page 22 is the mission and service financial picture and budget for 2023. The motion to accept the objective as printed is moved by Jerry Asling and seconded by Bob Blackmore. Jerry, did you want to say a few words before we voted? Come on up to the front, Jerry. Don't be shy. Now, Jerry said he just had 2 or 3 words, so you don't have to count, but I'm sure it won't be very long.
Thank you, Pat. I'll keep it short. Anyway, I just want to thank you all for the contributions to our mission and service and to our local fund, and I didn't bring the figures up with me when I came. Oh, there you go. Catherine wrote them all out for me. Anyway, there's something like 18,000 and something for our mission and service, a little less than the 20, but the local mission was about $1,300 over our budget, so that was great. And not only that, but there was a huge amount of money come in for our Ukraine relief fund, and the surplus, or the super gifts fund, was about 16,000 or something. So that is a lot of money that has come in through the year, over the year, for outreach into our community and to the worldwide as well. Unfortunately, that war is still going on. I'm wearing my Ukraine ribbon today. It was a year on Friday at the Ukraine war. So, and the brutality is still going on, unfortunately. Also, if you look at your Friday report on the computer, if you scroll right down to the bottom, you'll see another opportunity to give there to the Turkey and Syrian relief fund from the earthquake there that caused a lot of devastation. I think there were well over 40,000 deaths so far reported. So again, thank you very much for all the generosity throughout the year, and we hope for a good year. And thank you again for all your support.
Thank you, Jerry. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of reviewers for the financial records of Grace United Church organizations. This is an important job that needs to be done each year in January, and it usually takes a couple of days. It's a great job for someone who may have a bit of accounting or bookkeeping background. It also has to be somebody who is not already on the board or the finance committee. We are grateful to Sylvia Stewart and Dennis Lyons, who have graciously done this work for us in 2022 and have also done this job for the last several years. Nathan Bell is willing to leave his position on the finance committee and to move over to be a reviewer if necessary. We really need, though, at least one more person who can help us out. Now, luckily, next January is a few months away, so we're hoping someone else will come forward. Sylvia has agreed to offer some training to help the new person get started, and so you're not going in there not knowing what's going on. Sylvia will hold your hand a little bit and get you going. Thank you for that, Sylvia. So please speak to George if you might be interested in trying this. As you know, the more people involved, the easier the job is for everyone. In the meantime, Pat Hayes will make the motion to appoint Nathan Bell as a reviewer of the financial records, and that's seconded by Catherine Dankel. Any discussion? All in favor? Objecting? Abstaining? And now, we're getting to the end here. I think we're going to actually do it.
We still need a vote on that.
Oh,
mission
we
and
didn't, oh, my goodness, Jerry, we didn't vote on your mission and service. Okay, so the motion to accept the objective for mission and service is printed, is moved by Jerry Asling and seconded by Bob Blackmore. All in favor? Objecting? Abstaining? There, we got that one done. Thank goodness you're here. Eh?
Anybody that didn't sign the attendance sheet? Did everybody sign?
Adam didn't. Thank goodness, eh? Okay, so thank you to Adam Oliveira for the technical support to make this meeting in this format possible. He is always there to help us out no matter whatever technical support we need, and we really appreciate you, Adam. I also want to thank Larry, Jerry, Bob, Dawn, Adam, Jen, Lynn, and Marilyn for their setup help yesterday to get this organized. I guess the two Jens, you were here as well. Another thank you to Laurel for all the extra work putting the annual report together and getting it sent out. The annual report is a great document in terms of showing what we're all about as a church, what we value, and all of our initiatives and activities. I know I look at the document and I say I'm proud to be part of this, and I'm sure many of you feel the same way. What we can't overlook, however, is how much work it takes to take all of our individual scribblings and reports and put it together in an organized, logical, and attractive format. I know when Laurel invited me to proofread it, it was immaculate. And she does that even with all the other jobs she has to do in January and February. So Laurel, you're always professional, helpful, and you always have a smile. You go a long way to making Grace United the great place that it is. I have a plant for your office as a token of my appreciation. Please come on up. You're very welcome. And don't go away. Marilyn is coming up too.
Pat has pretty well covered everything that I was going to say, as well as George. And the job in January and February in the office is not an easy one, trying to close the books for the year before, get all the figures in, for the receipts to come out, for the annual report. 2 weeks ago, I was in here 2 nights in a row at a meeting in choir practice, and Laurel was still here, and she left about the same time as we did. And on behalf of the Stewardship Committee, Laurel, I would like you to accept these flowers. And for all you do, you are the glue that keeps our church together and keeps us going, telling us where to go, when to go.
Only good places.
Yes, that's right. And all the activities and everything that we have, we thank you so very much.
Well, thank you. And she knows what she's talking about. Marilyn knows what she's talking about.
It's a good thing somebody does, right?
Can I sit down now?
Yes, you can sit down. So, as a church, we have so many blessings. We have a wonderful staff. We have a fantastic music department, Yuki, Beth, and Heather. I know we were thrilled to have the choir back, and the hand chimes groups have been a highlight of each service they've been at. We have Sally working with the seniors. She comes up with all kinds of great ideas and activities. And Sally's United Church book club is just so special. It turned into a wonderful monthly event. We appreciate the flexibility and creativity used by our staff to reinvent their roles, meet our needs during the pandemic, and they've been able to switch gears again now that we're getting back to more in-person activities. We're also glad that Randy, our custodian, has stayed healthy and been able to continue to work for us. As always, we thank the leadership in the congregation that is so critical to our success. Folks on the very active committees are appreciated. Just read what they're able to do even during pandemic times. A special shout out, though, goes to the Worship and Music Committee. They had a lot of services to cover over several months between the time McCall left and Pastor Jen was able to start. We also need to give a big thank you to all the church members who stepped up to lead services. Between the committee and the other volunteers, it was a fantastic example of teamwork and all of us pulling together. Let's give the worship and music team a big round of applause. And thank you to our board members, those names that were on page 3. In the last few years, they had to set aside so many of their traditional agenda items and forge ahead with all the work involved with a lot of unique items and issues we had to respond to. Closing the church, reorganizing roles and responsibilities for staff, making online services. Our board has shown flexibility, willingness to adapt, and teamwork as we've responded to lots of issues. We have also done a lot of pivoting, sometimes on very short notice. As I discussed in my report for the annual meeting, the board has also had a huge amount of heavy lifting. With McCall leaving, we've had to produce a church profile very quickly and begin the hiring process. So thank you very much to a wonderful board. Personally, I have enjoyed the opportunity of chairing the Congregational Board over the last several years, and I valued the opportunity to use my skills to be of service to Grace United. Now, with getting back to a new normal, or an after-pandemic normal, the page is turning. This is, I think, a good opportunity to step back and allow another person to take on that role. I know that all organizations benefit from thoughtful change and renewal. I'm so glad that Dawn Blanchard has agreed to step into the position of Congregational Board Chair. She's familiar with the routines and values of the board, having been on the board the last few years. She's also involved with the regional governance of the United Church, so she brings a wider perspective as well. Join me in welcoming Dawn to the role. Thank you, Dawn. As we move forward to 2023, we have such a fantastic church family here, but we are so lucky also to have Pastor Jen land on our doorstep. We are so grateful, Jen, that you have joined us, and we look forward to your spiritual leadership. To repeat a sentence from your report, we look forward to the journey together that we are able to learn, stretch, and grow together in partnership as we live out God's call for our own lives, for Grace United, and for the world. We're glad you're here. Anything else before I close?
Yes, there is.
I knew you were going to be saying that. So this is just a small gift from us on the board and a card to say thank you so much. Pat has been chair for 8 years. The pandemic kind of, I think, threw a little bit of a loop into maybe some of her plans to not be there for 8 years, but it happens. And I'm very appreciative of your leadership, your guidance, your passion. We all are. And I'm glad that you're still going to be there as past chair to help me.
Thank you very
enjoy
much.
this very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dawn. And as I said before, as I have really enjoyed my time, and I've certainly enjoyed the opportunity to serve our church for the last 8 years. And I will still be around and happy to be involved. Just to finish things off, and I think we're going to just do it. The pandemic in the last few years has changed and constrained our lives and the way our church operates. Yet we remember that as a church family, we have many blessings. What the pandemic has reinforced for us is the worth of each other and the support we give each other as members of this church family. In 2023, I know we will continue to work through these challenges. We extend our gratitude and blessings to everyone who is part of the church for their continued sharing of gifts and talents and caring for each other. I know we will all work together to continue with Grace United Church, being a church with heart in the heart of the community. And thanks to each of you for your presence and your caring. May God's Spirit continue to sustain and bless us as we continue our journey in 2023. And we need a motion to adjourn, and I know Paul Cruikshank, who's on Zoom, always likes to do that. So we can't see Paul, but we know he's made that motion. And I will turn it over to you, Pastor Jen, for grace or whatever we need to do next.
It's been passed to me. Everyone know Johnny Appleseed? Okay. Oh, the Lord is good to me, and so I thank the Lord for giving me the things I need, the sun and the rain and the apple seed. The Lord is good to me. There's a second verse. Does anyone know the second verse? And every seed I sow will grow into a tree, and someday there'll be apples there for everyone in the world to share. The Lord is good to me. Johnny Appleseed. Amen.
Oh, I'm just wondering, is the pizza here, or should we talk among ourselves?
Hey. Really? Nothing? Hey. So the pizza is not here yet because we were super efficient. Yay, us. So if you didn't get a chance to fill out your little giving up control thing, like you're giving up the thing in the envelope, you can go ahead and do that now. We need to thank you, Jana, instead of Vanna, Jana. Or, of course, you can use the time if you need to washroom, whatever, too.